Hey everyone, it's Cass, and I've tried to record this several times, and I'm having such a hard time disclosing these details of my story because my story is so complex. It has so many factors to it, so please bear with me as I'm trying to explain the adversity that I've had to live through. Please bear with me as I am continuing to have to live through this trauma fog, this brain fog, as a woman who has experienced chronic homelessness on and off since 2017, okay? What I'm being guided to share right now is that, and before I share it, I want to say my spiritual team has led me to understand that the more I open up and share the details of my story and talk about all the adversity I have faced, the more I do this, the more I'm going to energetically move towards different experiences where people show up to support me and love me and cherish me because I'm opening up and embracing everything that I am and what I've lived through. And I'm releasing the shame around it, and I'm stepping out of hiding and being afraid, and I'm moving more and more into expressing the truth authentically and bringing it out into the light. So starting about a year ago, because of the way our system is set up here in the US, when it comes to serving survivors of abuse like me, women like me don't have a fighting chance in hell here in the US to get on our feet financially without a support system. And because I didn't have a support system, because of all the adversity I faced on top of it in the workplace, in the shelter system, I was not able to sustain long-term housing. And it wasn't my fault, right? And this is what I'm here to share. I'm here to help people become aware, and I'm here to talk about what happened to me authentically and how I've been working hard to manifest out of this nightmare. The first thing I want to share is that the shelters here in the US manifest as a prison culture. They manifest as a prison culture. So when someone like me goes into a shelter, a person like me who has no criminal background, who doesn't do drugs, who doesn't drink, who's pretty straight-laced, I get preyed upon in the shelters. So I've lived through a lot of abuse in the shelters, and I've had to adapt to living in a prison culture. Even though I never went to prison or jail, I was housed in a prison culture. So I went through a lot of abuses by people who were in shelter with me and also shelter staff. And as I shared in a previous video, I was tossed to the streets over and over and over again by shelter staff every time I worked to create stability for myself in this system as a woman who lost her housing due to the abuses that I lived through, due to the human trafficking that I lived through, due to the Munchausen's by proxy that I lived through, okay? Women like me don't even live through what I lived through, but if they do, they never escape. And the fact that I even escaped in the first place is a miracle But then to be cycled through the system the way that I was, and I've continued to keep going, is, I really don't have any words for it. And it got so bad. Even though I am a working class citizen and I worked really hard to create financial stability for myself, I was also heavily rejected and bullied and abused in the workplaces that I worked in, and sabotaged in the workplace so that I couldn't be successful. Because of all these factors, I kept getting pushed back in the system to the point where I was forced to live on the literal streets starting back in starting about a year ago, in 2021. So over the last year, I've been literally living on the street, on and off, trying to I'm getting the phrase pull myself up by the bootstraps, right? As a woman who lived through what I lived through, this system and a lot of privileged people here in the US expect you, regardless of what you've lived through, to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, even though the system is not built to assist people like me in order for us to heal and repair our life so that we can be successful. So when you see me struggling to speak in my videos over the last year, and you witness my brain fog and the trauma fog, and you hear me emotionally flat, it's because I've been living on the literal street over the last year. Because I have been constantly pushed out of work spaces and shelters because of my godlike energy. People have not embraced me for everything that I am, nor do they want to see me succeed. Please bear with me because I'm having a hard time communicating this information right now, because I've tried to explain this. I've tried to record this multiple times, so my energy is starting to get drained. I was guided to share more about this so that people can start fully seeing what I've had to live through, what I've had to overcome, and how hard it's been for me to survive. It's been, honestly, there are no words for what I've had to live through. I have been set back on the street more times than I can count. I've been in positions over and over and over again where I've had to spend multiple days on end awake because you can't sleep on the street as a woman. It's not safe, as you can imagine. I have not been willing to compromise my integrity and prostitute myself like many women do on the street in order to have a place for me to live and sleep. I have not been willing to participate in that type of transaction. And so because I don't take the easy way out, as an adult who can consent to prostitution, I will never do that. That is one of the only ways I've seen women like me be able to survive out on the street. Because even if you're a working class citizen like me, you don't get paid a living wage here in the US to be able to survive as one person in a one person household. Also, when I first was escaped the cultural setup that I was born into back in 2017, I was only able to start working part-time hours because I was very chronically ill at the time and I couldn't work full-time. And so, as you can imagine, it's been nearly impossible for me to create a foundation for myself, let alone get ahead financially in our current society, the way that it's set up here in the US. When I have been in the shelter systems, I was brutally abused in the shelters as they are a prison culture. And so when someone like me walks into a shelter, I'm instantly targeted because I don't fit the demographic of people that are in the shelter system. So I've been assaulted and abused in many different ways in the shelter systems and had my property stolen from me and smashed, such as my glasses. So for almost a year, I have been going without being able to see clearly because I had a gang of women about a year ago gang up on me and take my glasses and smash them. And they assaulted me. And one of the women molested me while I was sleeping. I would wake up to her molesting me while I was sleeping in the shelter. These are just a few of hundreds upon hundreds of abusive experiences I have had to live through here in America as a woman who has survived what I survived and fought to have a chance at life. This system in America never gave me a chance at life because of abusive shelter staff and abusive clients that were housed with me in the shelters that are no longer places of safety and respite. They are containers for people who are coming out of jail and prison. I'm being guided to say many times I broke down on the streets, as living on the streets puts you into a severe state of psychosis because you lose access to all your basic needs. And when you're forced to the street without a vehicle or any kind of container like a vehicle to protect yourself, your brain goes into a chronic distress response. And also combined with losing sleep, you're not thinking clearly. It's been nearly impossible for me to survive, but somehow I continued to push forward. I continued not to give up every time everyone abandoned me. I continue to share here on my platform, even though I know there's people watching me who continue to abandon me, who continue to not care to show up for me, who continue to choose to watch me as a spectator. I am continuing to press forward for all the women and people of all genders who have been taken off the radar on the streets here in America and all over the world, because the streets are one of the most dangerous places you can be. And I've been going undercover for the last year as a woman who's been living on the street. I have been gathering information as to how human traffickers and predators prey upon women and people of all genders who are vulnerable on the streets, who prey upon people like me and use our vulnerability of homelessness and our other vulnerabilities as leverage over us to pull us off the radar and coerce us into prostitution, human trafficking, and other abusive relationship dynamics. I am a woman who has been human trafficked, but I have never participated in prostitution, although I have been offered large amounts of money, houses, and vehicles by men who were very persistent in wanting to have sexual relations with me. I have many times, more than I can count, been approached by men from all different walks of life trying to buy me in many different ways, and I will never compromise my integrity, even though there were many times where I had been up for days on end, where I almost face planted because of the lack of sleep. Although I've been in these conditions, I could never sell myself to get ahead, because I just could never do it. It doesn't feel right to me, and it always felt unsafe. And I always saw any woman who participated in such exchanges and transactions, I always saw these women get abused. I witnessed women taken off the radar. I witnessed a lot of tragedy. When it comes to prostitution here in the US, I don't judge anybody who sold themselves for money to survive. I just could never bring myself to do it. And so because I've never compromised my integrity, I've never been able to create stability for myself. As a woman who doesn't have a support system of people to help me. Let me pause for a moment and tune in to see if there's anything else my spiritual team wants me to share in this video. I am tired because of everything that I've lived through. I should not be alive today, but I keep trying and pressing forward for many different reasons, and I want to shed light on what's going on to certain demographics of people here in the US, and I have been gathering information when it comes to how people like me get taken off the radar. I want to expose how the everyday average Joe preys upon women like me who are on the street. These are the aspects of my story that my spiritual team is guiding me to share right now. thank you to everyone who watched this video. I am going to continue to press forward and believe that as I continue to do this work, and that as I continue to not compromise my integrity, and I clear these energetic blocks and shift my energy, that doors will open for me. I want to say, if you are in this situation, there is hope for us, and that I'm sorry if you have lived through any of the things that I have described in this video. I want you to know that you're not alone, and I want to tell you to keep going. Don't give up. And if you continue to keep pressing forward and do your best to never compromise your integrity, doors will be opened for you. In spite of everything that I've lived through, I've been able to manifest miracles in all of this. In spite of everything that I've lived through that has allowed me to survive. I've been able to manifest some pretty unbelievable, miraculous things because I always listened to my divine guidance. I was always obedient to my spiritual team who guided me to safety. I was a woman who escaped abuses and human trafficking that I should not have escaped. I should have not lived through. I should have been taken off the radar, but I was protected and I was guided because I was listening to my spiritual guidance, and I was listening to my spiritual team around me. So this is the message that I want to leave with everyone today, and I will continue in the next video.